Super excited to have everyone on the webinar today, and I'm sure there'll be some more trickling in as we get kicked off. But yeah, to kind of set the stage as we jump into it, the kind of rough agenda for today was planning on just giving some quick introductions, an overview on Fadmoor and kind of who we are and why we're here, and as well as the kind of current state of supply chain planning that we're hearing from some of our clients, and then how Anaplan helps solve some of that. And then we'll jump into the demo, which will be for a majority of the webinar, which I'm sure you all are excited for. And then at the end, we'll leave about 10 minutes for Q&A. So that being said, the brains of the operation, Abdullah Shah, is here with me, and he'll be doing the demo later on. But Abdullah, would love for you to introduce yourself and give some more about your background.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. My name is Abdullah Shah. I am a project manager or a supply chain solution architect at Fadmoor. I've been with the company now for about 3 years, and I've been working in the Anaplan workspace both started out as a client and then been working in it as a solution architect for about 5+ years now. I work with in Fadmoor, I work with the clients and our delivery team to design, build, and deliver Anaplan solutions ranging from FP&A, supply chain, F&B, all sorts of stuff. Today, we're going to be walking through the Anaplan supply chain app, which I am super excited to take a look at, and we're going to be focusing on the demand and supply side. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Abdullah. And then I am Matt Lindgren. I'm the head of sales over here at Fadmoor. I actually worked at Anaplan for a few years, a couple years ago, and worked with Fadmoor on a lot of my engagements. And I tell people that I had so much fun working with them that I came over here to work full time. So yeah, I'll be going through just a couple of the slides next, and then I'll kick it back over to Abdullah to jump into the actual demo. So a little bit more about Fadmoor, right? So we have a unique business model in the fact that it's a kind of onshore, nearshore, offshore model that we built over the past 5 or so years. And so we're headquartered in Dallas, but have offices in Rwanda, in Chicago, in Peru, in India, and Pakistan, and kind of all across the globe, which is really exciting. And we're continuing to grow pretty quick. We're up to about 80 plus consultants now, so this is a little bit out of date, but yeah, continuing to train and enable folks on the Anaplan platform. And then we've done over 100 successful implementations over the past couple of years, all ranging from supply chain, demand, FP&A, and kind of all across the board. And so both us and our leadership team has about an average of 15 to 20 years experience implementing these type of tools, and kind of a lot of us have a legacy planning tool background of SAP, Oracles, and of the world. And so yeah, now we're enabling Anaplan and kind of the next gen growth of AI-based planning tools. This is a quick kind of pictures of some of our teams based in Rwanda specifically. That's kind of where our biggest hub is we have about, I think, 50-ish folks there. And so our real kind of motto here at Fadmoor exists to enable generational life improvements for both our clients, obviously, because they're getting the end output of implementing, the planning tools that can really change the output of an organization, but also their work lives, but also our employees' lives as well, and giving them job opportunities that wouldn't have necessarily been there before. Okay, so now I'm just going to jump into the kind of the current state of supply chain planning as how we see it and kind of how Anaplan helps that. I'm sure a lot of you have seen these type of screenshots, so you're within Excel every day, kind of doing these planning, modeling, and forecasting processes. But what we see in a lot of large organizations that we work with is, there's big legacy tools that are being implemented. You think of the SAPs, Oracles, other systems that might not be flexible enough to keep up with the pace of change of the business. So you think of all these new tariff rules, all these new regulations that are coming out that might affect supply chains very rapidly at a very fast pace of change. Some of these tools are hard to, are not flexible enough to keep up with the pace of change. And so that causes folks to go back into Excel. And the challenge with Excel, I mean, we all love Excel and the fact that it's so flexible and can kind of give you the views and pivot things and how you want to see it. The challenge is, in large organizations, the save as, the different versions, the scenarios are all very manual, and the lack of collaboration causes errors, diminishing forecast accuracy, things like that. And so kind of picture that in your mind when you're thinking about the current state of supply chain planning. And I'm curious at the end, we start kind of talking about Q&A of how many folks that are on this webinar today kind of are involved in this spreadsheet-based planning process. And so where Anaplan fits in is Anaplan is this holistic connected planning tool. And you're like, well, what does connected planning actually mean? It sounds like a buzzword, right? It's connecting planning tool it's a holistic planning tool that can deploy many different planning models across the organization. And so, yes, today we're going to be talking about kind of this bottom right quadrant here and some of these use cases down here. But Anaplan can be deployed across finance, across workforce, across sales. And the unique thing is all these different models are interconnected, right? So if you make a change in your demand plan, that might update your sales model, which is update the compensation model. There's no need to save as a spreadsheet, send back and forth to all these different teams and organizations. And as soon as you make a change in a spreadsheet, like usually that change is out of date within a couple minutes because the business is moving so quick, right? So there's a ton of value to be had here when you start thinking about these connected planning tools. And so I like to say Anaplan is it gives you the flexibility of an Excel tool, but the scalability of an enterprise solution. And so what you'll see when Abdullah is going through the demo is that you can change, you can pivot, you can adjust drivers on the fly without having to go to IT and kind of put it in a ticket, wait a couple weeks to get the model updated. Like you can make these changes on your own, which is what enables kind of business users to actually keep up with that change in the tool. And so this is kind of a double click into that specific supply chain honeycomb. And so we're going to show a lot of honeycombs today, but this is just a list of kind of some of the different supply chain planning use cases that we've deployed in the past, right? So I'll sit on this slide just for 10, 15 seconds so you can kind of take a glance through it to understand if some of these are top of mind for you guys. The nice thing is about Anaplan, everything doesn't have to be deployed at once, right? If you want to deploy every single one of these supply chain use cases, great. Like, of course, we can do it. A lot of times what we see in Anaplan is like, hey, where's your biggest challenge today from a spreadsheet perspective? Where is that biggest spreadsheet that's being held in the organization that's very manual? It takes 2 weeks to update some sort of report. Like, let's just take that spreadsheet and put it into Anaplan to prove something out. And so, yes, I don't want this to be overwhelming. We're not going to boil the ocean. We're normally going to start with one or two of these so you guys can see a really quick time to value. And then, start to expand once the value is seen. And so, I'll talk about it at the end and kind of during the demo as well. But in Anaplan, kind of gone are the days of the big 1 to 2 year implementations. A lot of these use cases can be implemented in 8 to 12 to 14 to 16 weeks. And so it's very quick time to value. And so that's why my notion of, hey, just give us your biggest spreadsheet and we can kind of put it into Anaplan to show you the art of the possible. And that's what we've done with a lot of our customers. And that's where their light bulb kind of goes off in their head of, wow, this is amazing. I don't know how you built this so quickly. Like, we've heard that a lot from our customers. And so as we continue here, again, we've done a lot of different FP&A use cases, supply chain, demand planning, supply inventory use cases in Anaplan, and have a lot of experience in this realm. And so Abdullah today is going to be going through kind of a high level demo of Anaplan within supply chain, and that kind of, there's a lot of different facets within that. And so Abdullah will be going through that. And obviously, given the fact that there's different folks joining that are in different roles and different organizations from different industries, right? This demo is going to be pretty high level, but just know that Anaplan is very flexible, that it can be tailored towards exactly what you do within your organization today. So it's not an out-of-box tool that's just implemented and that's it. It's like, well, no, today is just because we don't know your exact business processes, we're just going to show something high level, but just know and keep in the back of your mind that it can be adjusted to kind of your processes today. So with that being said, Abdullah, I would love to have you take it from here and kind of set the stage and what you're going to be showing today.
Sounds good. Do we want to pause for a quick introduction for Ajay?
Yeah, that'd be great. Ajay, you want to introduce yourself and a little bit more about your background too?
Hello, good morning. My name is Ajay Dadsena, and I am with Fadmoor for the last 3.5 years, but my experience with the planning tool is for about 20 years. I have been involved in different planning tools, worked with different plannings, supply chain, demand planning, inventory management, FP&A and all. And recently or lately, I've been more focused on demand planning and supply planning, helping customers coming across all the situations and solving their problems.
Awesome. Thanks, Ajay. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Perfect. So let me just quickly get the share up and check with you guys. Can you guys see my Anaplan screen? Awesome.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be looking at a mock supply chain application. This application has been configured to represent a beverage company. So this company sells juices, smoothies, other sort of grocery items, but mostly towards the drink aisle. And then to reiterate what Matt was saying, this is not an exhaustive walkthrough of the application. That would require several sessions, several similar sessions. What we're going to try and do today, hopefully, is give you guys a small idea or flavor of what Anaplan could look like and how it functions, how you move around the tool, and how you could, envision your planning process inside of it. Because one of the things Matt mentioned, which is true, is it is super flexible. And while what you're looking at today is high level for a dummy beverage company, that could be replicated and has been replicated successfully for all sorts of industries and clients. So with that said, we're going to get right into it. We're going to start with demand planning. So today we'll start by looking at a demand planner's dashboard. So this is where the demand planner starts their process. And the idea for this page is to allow a demand planner to take a quick inventory of all the tasks that they need to perform in Anaplan. The idea here is that we lay things out within these configurable dashboards and cards to allow you to look at the things that matter to you the most. In this particular case, we are looking at a demand plan curve at the total company level. You can drop down or use these drop downs to go down to different item or product levels. So you can look at different product categories, you can look at different scenarios, and then you can also have these cards here to indicate to you what sort of actions need to be taken by the planner to resolve any issues that occur. On here, you'll also notice that the page allows you to navigate to different parts of the application with a single click. That functionality is highlighted by these blue hyperlinks. So if you wanted to take a look at what the base plan looked like, you could click onto that and maneuver your way over to it. Today, we'll basically be taking a look at some KPI alerts to see how exception management works inside Anaplan. So you can see, if you notice here, that there's one product right now out of my 24 dummy products that is creating an exception. And I'd like to see what that is. So if I click onto this hyperlink, it'll take me to the exact page where I can find more information about it. So here, as I scan, I can quickly take a look. I have a couple orange alerts and a couple red alerts. What you'll notice is we implement on this app page a stoplight methodology for exception planning. So you have, your red, amber, and green. The idea with green is everything's good. You can kind of glance at it and move along. The idea with having orange is that this is going to become a problem. And you need to monitor it. The idea is that it's not an issue today. It doesn't need to be solved today, but it's something that needs to be monitored. If it's all monitored correctly, it may turn into a potential issue. So kind of helping you get ahead of the curve. And red is something that is currently an issue and needs to be taken a look at right away. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at this red one. The idea with this orange smooth is it looks like somebody's made some manual inputs. So there's been system intervention by a planner. We'll try and figure out whether that intervention is required or needed, and we'll kind of figure out whether we want to leave it in there or make some adjustments. One of the cool things of Anaplan and how it keeps everything in sync is that there's context enabled on all these pages. What that simply means, and there's a brief description here in the bottom left-hand side, is whenever you click on an item and you've got these selections up top, it basically carries over this context as you maneuver and go from one page to another. This way, you're not pulling up different Excel sheets and refreshing them to get to the right combination. You're not ever making a change in the wrong place, in the wrong plan. It kind of keeps everything in sync as you're flipping between them. So as I select different items, you'll notice my context here changes. And when I click on this demand planning button to take me to the planning page, it'll carry over the customer and product context. In our case, we're going to take a look at this orange smooth because it looks like our demand is down 24%. So let's go take a quick look and see what's going on. Sweet. So when we're on the demand planning page, you will get all of your basic views that you would expect. You in here can see any promotions that are applied. You can see what the baseline is. You can see any manual interventions that are happening. You can see your demand broken out. The horizons are controllable. You've got time filters on the left-hand side here. You can toggle between them. They give you a lot of built-in functionality for what people generally like to view. But the key thing is that these are also configurable. So if you have a different way you like to see your view, maybe you like to see an 8+8, maybe you like to see a 16+16, you can set that up and always have it available as a toggle. So once we get to this view here, we can quickly come over here and we can visually spot two ways. One, by the input status here, so you can see your first input was entered in week 1 FY25, so you can see there's a manual input that's in the system. And the second way, you can quickly see that there are manual adjustments in the system, so you can highlight this and it'll show you on the curve that someone's reduced your demand in looks like all of Q1. So let's have a little look and see what's going on. In my demand planner overrides, I can see over here that somebody's put in 0 demand. So they've lowered the demand from the base plan of 1282 down to 0. And the cool thing is, if I maximize the page just to grab some more real estate, everybody can see a bit better, is I can now scroll down to the very bottom and I've got some commentary here. So whoever came in here and made some changes, left some notes for me to review, so I can quickly take a look and I can see that it looks like some of that supply disruption Matt was talking about, that's occurring with this vendor, and we've got some port strikes. So if you guys know something new, so as you're reviewing this, if the schedule has changed, the port has opened up, you can adjust these. If not, if everything looks good, you can back out. We can head back over to the exceptions page with the back button here to help you get to the previous page. And then we can say, yep, exception reviewed, no adjustments needed. So that's kind of how the general idea of exception management works, because mostly what happens is people are managing a large portfolio of items. You might have tons of locations, you're managing tons of items you're managing, and you can't really get to all of them. So what Anaplan will help you do is kind of isolate where your attention is needed immediately and the most, and kind of walk you through that in a ranked fashion. Ajay, just wanted to check with you, how often do you find your clients coming to you and looking for something like this, help with exception management?
Oh, this is kind of a common problem I've seen across various client places. And most of the time is like their demand is running smooth and it's generated through the system. And then manual intervention, they keep changing because of the fluctuations through their customers. And that kind of changes everything, the whole dynamic. So they have to come back and fix kind of thing. So we have done few things, I think, in Anaplan where you can look at how your historical shipments is and how was your historical demand and what is the difference between those that we already have in Anaplan one way or the other. So that kind of give you like what kind of exception you're going to see and proactively work on.
Awesome. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Quickly flipping over to another functionality that we get a lot of requests for. I'll quickly pull that over just so everybody can see. Is new product launches. So new product launches in Anaplan are basically a breeze. We have the ability to create multi-year product launch plans that include both development phases, include contribution plans, include cannibalization, and we'll kind of go over that here. Before the webinar kicked off, I went ahead and I created a dummy item. So I created a Orange Juice 2.0. We're going to improve on OJ. This is indicated here by NPI. So that's your indicator to say, here's an item that's going to be a new product introduction. And we can come in here for Orange Juice 2.0 and we can give it a NPI date, essentially a launch date. So in our example, we'll set it to March 2025. So we'll say it's launching March 1st, 2025. And we'll take a quick look here and we'll say, yeah, for all the customers that we'd like to introduce it at, let's put it, well, let's process those changes real quick, get that in. Awesome. Come over here, grocery. Sweet. So heading back over here to the plan itself. So we'll take a look at development phases. So step one is to figure out what part of the plan you're at. So whether you're just discovering the idea, whether you're designing a validation, you're ramping up production, or you're actually at launch. We'll set it to idea discovery at the moment. We'll start out with projecting some sales. So let's start with like a 2-year model here. So we'll say we have a 2-year plan. We're going to sell about 250,000 of these per year. What that'll do is you'll notice as you start making your inputs, it starts opening up dynamically the other fields that you have available that are required fields. So we'll come in here, we'll say, yeah, we want to set a launch curve. We'll set a launch curve as a standard launch profile, and we'll start setting some revenue and contribution requirements. So we'll say, yeah, we're going to sell this for 1450 in both these periods, and we're going to produce it for 350, healthy contribution margins. And what this allows you to do really quickly is build out your contribution plan. So as you can see, as you're making these updates, say I want to rethink this, and I'm thinking my average price is too high, it's not competitive, I want to lower that. You can quickly come in here, lower those, and see how that contribution plan changes. You can also change the profile, so you don't necessarily have to give it a standard launch curve. You have a whole host of curves to pick from. The key here that I want to stop and point out is the flexibility. You're not stuck with what Anaplan has out of the box. You have all these different curves that you can define. So if you have a launch curve that you've seen repeat over time, if you have an ordinal curve of some kind, you can come in here, you can code that in, and then Anaplan will let you pick that as your initial curve. For now, we'll stick with the launch profile and we'll see how that goes for us. Moving down, the other thing we can set up is we can set up the cannibalization. So the cannibalization, that's a key request that we get or tend to get from a lot of our customers, is to figure out, well, as I'm introducing a lot of these products, as I'm turning over my product category, what is that doing to existing products? What is that doing for sales, for inventory positions? What is that doing for money? Am I better off introducing this new product, or am I actually worse off? So one of the things you can do in Anaplan is you can come in and you can say, well, okay, when I introduce my 2.0 orange juice, I'm actually going to be cannibalizing my Orange Smooth 12 bottle or 12 pack. So when you come through and you set that up, you can now have the ability to do, again, a multi-year plan for cannibalization. So you can take a look and you can say, okay, in year one, I'm going to use, existing volumes. In year two, I'm going to use actually, let's use existing volumes here as well. And we'll say we have a 2-year plan. So we're going to kill the third year for now and just select everything, hit delete, and that ends up removing everything. Very Excel-like, as you guys see us move around in here with how the drop-downs work, with how the copy downs work. So in here, once you go through and you set this up, it'll basically build you a cash flow plan, and that cash flow plan will enable you to see what the impact of that cannibalization is. So as you're coming through and you're figuring out, well, if I hadn't been cannibalizing my product, I would have grown at this rate, but because I am cannibalizing sales from another product, it actually lowers it, and you can get a more realistic view of what that looks like holistically. If you have the information available where you wanted to do an ROI analysis, so if you knew what it's going to cost to go to market, you could also punch that in, and Anaplan would take that into account to give you an idea of what this cash flow plan would look like based on cash flow outgoings as well. Awesome. Quick check-in. Ajay, in your experience, what are some of the key ways that new item planning has been revamped or improved over like something traditional like Excel-based planning?
There has a lot been done overall in the new product planning. I would say Anaplan has come long ways. Those amount of different launch curve that customer now has to support the specific type of item that they are introducing is great. The cannibalization is great, and right after doing that, you can directly look at the cash flow and ROI analysis. I think that is great. Doing something like this in Excel will take a lot of time, I would say. So great, yeah.
Awesome. Makes sense. So let's actually hop over to supply planning. So we've taken a look at a couple of demand planning instances. Let's quickly hop over and see some supply planning as well. I'll bring those over real quick, and let's kill some of these. Awesome. So hopping over to supply planning, another very highly requested functionality that we tend to see with our clients is that they would like to plan their inventory by item, by location. Now that sounds simple, but when you look at really large organizations, doing Excel-based item location planning actually becomes really tedious. Oftentimes people have to break out an Excel model into several worksheets and then kind of combine the output from all of them into another worksheet or some other visualization tool to actually get a holistic view. You can think of companies that have, thousands or hundreds of thousands of items over several locations or several sub-locations as well, and that becomes too many combinations to kind of bring Excel-based planning to a grinding halt. So one of the cool things we'll do is we'll kind of walk through a super simple example and a super high-level example of how Anaplan helps you take your inventory planning from, like an Excel-based planning tool into something a little more robust. So diving into it, what you're seeing here is this is the supply planner dashboard. So very similar to the demand planner dashboard that we looked at. This is their equivalent. So you kind of come here to take inventory of all the things that require your attention. So on the top, you'll still see some similar KPI cards. We include a count of issues. So you can see right now we're super good. There's no issues to review, but we do have some medium priority issues that we want to review. And we'll kind of see that over here, that all of these currently have an orange indication. So if you might remember from our stoplight methodology, these are not problems, but they're more so going to become problems if we don't tackle them correctly and if you don't monitor them correctly. The reason why we're seeing this is we kind of set this up for you guys is where you notice is our current inventory is way over our current requirements. So the reason for that is oftentimes when we come into a client and we're doing our initial scoping and implementation, we actually figure out that due to several reasons, they are, sometimes bloated on inventory. So one of the key objectives that they want coming out of an Anaplan implementation or supply chain app implementation is to get leaner inventory. They want to figure out how they can free up cash flow, how they can free up space, how they can free up their planners to figure out, well, do I even need to stock these items? Do I need to phase them out as end of life and figure out what's excess so we can start moving those with either promotions or scrapping them, figuring out how to get to a more healthy, optimal level for inventory. So similar, right now you'll see we're way up high here. We're going to let our demand slowly come down over time until we get to a more reasonable level, and we'll see how that looks, which is what the orange here indicates. So basically meaning if you don't get rid of all this stuff, eventually it's going to start piling up. If there's expiries, it's going to hit expiry dates. If there's wastage, it's going to hit wastage dates, and you'll have to scrap it. So going from here, again, you'll have all these different navigation links. The idea with these is to show you a different kind of navigation that's available. So you guys kind of saw the hyperlinks. Now you get to see these buttons. Both do very similar things, but add a different feel to the application itself. So here, we'll quickly take a look at some inventory policies before we head into planning, because one of the other big things that Anaplan allows you to do this with the supply chain app is you don't have to plan everything the same way. You can use Anaplan's calculation engine and the power of the calculation engine to plan every item in every location exactly how you would want to. So it does really give you the freedom and flexibility to mix and match, and we'll take a look at what some of those look like. So pressing this button or navigating directly over here with the 920 page that I've got preloaded, it'll basically bring us over to these manage inventory policies. Taking a quick look at what these policies look like in Anaplan, I just want to show you guys another key piece is that you'll notice all of these, there's a spare policy at the end of it. So what the app lets you do is you don't just get to use what's in here, just like the curves, you also have the availability to come through and create your own policies. So some examples of what is in here though is you can kind of set up categories of policies. So you can say whether I have continual demand, so I want to buy every week and I want to buy for 1 week. That could be something like every period, 1 period supply. You can set up something more spaced out if you have longer lead times and you want to buy more items at any given time. And you also just don't want to place too many orders too frequently because they might not hit MOQ. So what we're going to do is we're going to buy something every 4 periods, buy 16 periods of supply. So it gives you that flexibility. It can also let you target service levels. So you can pick any item based on demand variability, based on supply variability or a confidence interval. You can kind of come through and say, well, I'd like to target 97% customer service levels. So it gives you that flexibility to come through here and pick those. And then on the next page, I'll show you how you can assign those, and actually it changes the look of your planning quite a bit. So once we move from here, we'll actually go take a look at what actual inventory planning looks like. This is the heart of supply planning in Anaplan. So this page is where you get to have all of your reference points, all of your parameters, all of your incomings, outgoings, projections, overrides. It truly is the heart of the supply planning process. What we'll pick here is we can pick random example. I'll go pick a location. We'll look at the northern DC. We'll look at orange, and this tier 1 and tier 2, it essentially just opens up and shows you tier 1 items or tier 2 and tier 3 items in this particular example. So coming down in here, again, we've got some time view settings. The time view settings are very similar. You can look at, years, weeks, and then kind of customize them for what you only like to take a look at. And that's all available in here as well. On the left-hand side, you'll see that we've got all the different policies you can use, all the different parameters and metrics you can use. You can define MOQs. You can also define whether you'd like to honor MOQs or not. So if there were periods of time where you did not have to honor MOQs, so you've had that external discussion with your planner, with your partner, and they've allowed you to waive MOQs, you can come in and feed that in here as well. You can tweak lead times. You can tweak order multiples or rounding values, MOQs, and all that stuff. So taking a look at this particular item, it's currently set with an inventory policy or a base policy of buy every period, buy 2 periods of supply. So you will see with that blue line or bar here that it's basically coming through and buying every period, and it's buying 2 periods of supply. So what I kind of was mentioning is you can come through either by week, change the inventory policy if you wanted to time phase it, or you could do it holistically for the entire location item combination. So let's say I don't want to buy it that frequently. I like to buy it every 4 periods. What that essentially goes through and does is Anaplan recalculates your requirements, and it comes through and phases it out. I'll give it a second here to recalculate requirements. There you go. Perfect. So it goes through, as you can see, in real time, does all the math in the background, recalculates requirements, finds that by buying every 4 periods, you're actually running into a shortfall. So by changing that inventory policy, you can see right here that now, because you can't place an order for another 3 weeks, you're not able to grab or not fulfill the shortfall. But you start to see more of that seesaw curve where you essentially see I have a reorder point, I have a max that I go to, demand brings me down, reorder point gets triggered, I go back up, and then I come back down. So as you start spreading this out further and further, you'll start seeing that chainsaw effect take a bit more impact. So then coming down a bit further, as you come through here, you can, like I said, define minimum order quantity. So say you wanted to buy in 500 minimum and you had to buy in multiples of 50. You can go through and set those up here, and that essentially changes your requirements. And you can see all of that getting built here. So I can go over on this toolbar, maximize it, and essentially grab some more real estate so I can take a look at all this information. Another super cool thing you can do, if you'd like to take this out and do something in a different tool with it, you can export all the data with this little button here, and that lets you get this data out in a PDF, in text, in CSV, to upload to another software, in Excel, to do any additional planning with it. Okay, pausing here, Ajay, just wanted to check with you, in your experience, what are some of the main ways in which Anaplan has made the inventory planning process, which is all of this, a little more robust for people?
Yeah, thanks. Good point. In Anaplan, I think the app that is built for supply planning has reviewed all the different types of policies any customer can have. So everything is available, flexible, and has an option to define your own policies. All is one together. And one good thing about is you change something and everything is immediately updated. All your reforecasted inventory flows, everything is showed up immediately. So that's great. Everything is in one place, I would say. You click change safety stock or the minimum order quantity. Yeah. It will project your forecast, and it will also tell you when to order next.
Yeah, for sure. I think in on my side, I find like this is the part that gets planners most excited, because I think this is the hardest part to do in Excel. When you get down to this lowest level and you're taking a look at things at at the item DC level or the item location level, it's so much and so overwhelming. But yeah, I do feel like the supply chain app has really brought it all together in a nice visual to put in front of people. Awesome. So I think we have time to take a look at one more quick thing. So let me quickly bring that over. What we'll dive into here is ABCXYZ. Again, something super simple. It's usually a go-to very first requirement that people tend to have right after safety stock, I'd say, is people want to figure out what's actually driving revenue for them. So if they look at their top items, their A items, their B items, their C items, and then try and figure out what are their most volatile items or the hardest to move items. So, look at the XYZ equivalent of it. We in Anaplan or with the supply chain app are able to take a look at ABCXYZ classifications, both at the lowest item location level, but also holistically at a company level to say, well, how does this item do at this distribution center? But then how does this item perform at the entire company? So it helps you really understand the mix of your inventory and how it's spread. So we'll take a look at the same kind of example here. Again, we're working with juices and smoothies to take a look at how the ABCXYZ analysis is done. The idea here is on the left-hand side, you're able to come through and quickly flip between whether you'd like to see, how many periods of history or units you'd like to use to generate the ABC analysis. So you can quickly pick and say, well, I like to use 13 periods or 13 weeks. Then you can kind of pick between whether you'd like to look at, revenue or units, whether you want to do historicals or you want to look at the forecast to kind of figure out either a go forward based ABC analysis or a historical one. This actually becomes a very key distinction when you have high turnover in your product category. So if you're turning over your category super quickly, like you would in like fast fashion or a grocery store, what would tend to happen is you wouldn't have enough historicals to actually support a good segmentation of the business, and you wouldn't even want to use them because of how much you are turning over your inventory. So oftentimes people will flip to the future looking projection to say, well, how do these items rank based on how much I'm projecting to sell over the next 13 weeks versus how many I sold over the prior 13 weeks. So once you go through and you set those up, the system then goes through and creates recommendations. So on the bottom here, you'll kind of see what the recommendations are on that ABC matrix. And you can see we've got, about 2A, or I'd say 3A products. We've got about 6 B products, and the rest of them are falling here in the C products. Now, you're not stuck with these recommendations. If you take a look at these and you say, well, I don't actually like what I'm seeing here, you have the ability to navigate to a different page. Another navigation tool I wanted to show you guys is on each page, you've got this bar up top, which opens up the entire Anaplan app ecosystem. And then in here, when you open all these carrots up, you can kind of see all of the different pages available inside a category. So one more way to make your way around and navigate in Anaplan is, as you can quickly come through here, you'll see we're looking at our ABC segmentation. I can pull some of these up and say, well, I'd like to change what the ABC determinations are. So I don't want to take a system recommendation. I'd like to make an edit. And then I'll also pull one of these reports up just so I can show you what those look like at the end of it. So flipping over to 326, which is essentially our edit page. We come over here and we can quickly glance and see right now, based on the color legend here, that all of these are the system recommendations. So we're taking whatever the base system recommendation is, but we don't have to. Like I said, if I wanted to change this item and I say, well, this is not really an item, we're trying to phase this out with our 2.0 better orange juice, we'll essentially come through and we'll say, yep, let's make this a B, and then have that become the actual, B, and have that actually become the go forward categorization for it. The key here is that as you guys make these changes, they take effect and recalculate, things like safety stock, things like inventory policies, if they're tied to your specific ABC categorizations. And the good thing is you don't actually have to do anything more than just press a button. So you hit the button, that button then recalculates Anaplan live, and you can now go back to your inventory pages, go back to your safety stock pages, go back to your purchase requisition pages, and see that take effect immediately. And once we're kind of done here, just to give you guys a quick idea of what that looks like in a report, I'll pull that 324 page up as well. And you can quickly come in here and see, actually, my bad, I think I hit the wrong button. It's 322. We'll give that a second here to load. And then this will give you an idea or a visual representation of what your inventory position looks like, or your inventory categorization looks like by your entire company, by different product segments. So you can come through here, like I said, look at everything, or you can just look at your core and blend so I can see what my orange juices look like and what makes up all of my revenue and how big each one is. So you can quickly figure out, okay, just by looking at that, it looks like Orange Smooth 4 is one of my biggest contributors to my revenue and the biggest contributors to my products. Awesome. I think that's all that we had for today. Matt, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Abdullah. Right now, I can open it up to the audience if they have any sort of Q&A. I know we went through a lot in a short amount of time, and so I want to make sure that we, open up the floor to you guys if you have any questions. Otherwise, I kind of have a list of questions that I can go through here that we get a lot from kind of different supply chain executives that we work with. So the floor is yours if you have any questions. You can just put them in the chat integrated within Zoom here, and I can see it. I can start just kind of going down my list, and then if you guys have any, please put them in there, and I can see it as well. But a lot of the questions that we get are like the first one being, how long is implementation, right? Pretty much every conversation that we have is like, hey, this all looks great. The functionality is there. It looks amazing. But how long does it take to get it up and running so my team can be using it? It's kind of a two-part question. One being, it depends on what use case and the amount of data and your current process today. right? And if there's a re-engineering of that process that you want to do, like if you just want to take that and put it into Anaplan, great. That might be quicker. If you want to say, hey, we actually want to tweak it and do these X, Y, and Z things differently, that might take a little bit longer. But we've done very short sprints of implementations, starting from 8 weeks for really small use cases, up to 16 weeks before. And so still a lot shorter than what you'd think from a traditional kind of supply chain planning tool. But yeah, still very quick. Abdullah, did you see that question that came in by chance? Can you see that or no?
Uh, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like how ABC XYZ relates to manage safety stock levels and how quickly its configuration. Do you have any demos on that one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So while we wouldn't be able to pull something up right now, but can kind of talk through it. So ABC XYZ, what people will tend to do is tie service levels directly into an A, B, and C categorization. So technically, when you're doing your service level designations, you'd say my A items I like to fill at 98% or 97%, my B items I'll fill at 95, and my C I'll fill at 85. And then you can also define new items with an N categorization to say, well, my new items, because I want to give them the ability to grow and give them the chance to grow, I might try and fill them at like a 95. So similar to like a B. And the idea there is that as you move these categorizations between like A, B, C, X, Y, Z, ABC, the idea is safety stock recalculates automatically, inventory policies recalculate automatically. So you don't have to go through and touch everything one by one. It's actually the power of connected planning is that as you're making your updates, it does go through and recalculate all of that for you. So you will see it come through. So as you're making your changes and you're rebalancing something, say you take it down, you will start seeing that inventory supply go down, which will then trigger your, working capital to be released on the inventory side, linking into finance. You can link that into marketing to see when I'm downgrading items, I'd like to run promotions on that. So that's kind of where that honeycomb comes into place and really, really makes connected planning powerful. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, thanks, Abdullah. Appreciate it. We had one more come in as well. The speed of the demo is impressive, but how does the app perform for large data sets? For example, 25 million combinations. That's a great question.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So one of the key things here, which obviously we'll have to leverage on Anaplan as well, is how they do it with the magic in the background. But they basically have their proprietary engine, which keeps everything calculated and pre-allocated in service space. So the idea is, as you are scaling up in combinations, you wouldn't start seeing any degradation in performance. With how the Polaris engine is, or even the classic engine is designed for Anaplan, the calculations are all done and pre-configured calculated. So as you go through and you make a change somewhere, it's actually recalculating live in the server, but there's no like SQL query pulls, there's nothing in the middle, there's no middleman that's slowing the process down, which is really how they're able to keep up with these massive combinations. I think, Matt, you might be able to speak better to this, but we have clients ranging from 100 million all the way to several billions, tens of billions. And as you start scaling up, the performance remains exactly the same.
Yeah, great question on that one. So second, another one came in, Abdullah. So it utilizes server versus in-memory cache.
There we're getting a little technical, and I would point to Anaplan definitely to find out the specifics of it. But the way they explain it to us is that it is, server space. Now, whether that server space is utilizing some portion of in-memory cache, that's entirely possible to keep it that fast.
Yeah, so happy to answer that with a kind of back-end architecture specialist on the Anaplan side. Good question, though. Yeah, and data volume question we get all the time as well, and it's extremely scalable for large organizations. I mean, the biggest supply chain kind of companies in the world leverage Anaplan. So
yeah, that's one of the easiest way to kind of talk about it, right? So we can talk from pure experience and say all the implementations that we've done. I can think of people with hundreds of thousands of items at 10, 15 combinations or different distribution centers, and we scale with transfers, with inventory planning, with incomings, outgoings, with rebalancing, even going further into it to think about the optimizers that are offered. There's really a lot you can do without ever facing any performance degradation. So yeah, that's what I can say with experience.
Next question is AI capabilities, Abdullah. So yeah, what do you see, and is there any AI integration done to make some recommendations out of the box? So another
Yes.
great question because I know AI is such a hot topic these days, and so yeah, Abdullah would love for you to answer that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, AI, like you guys know, it's the buzzword right now. Everybody wants something to do with AI. Anaplan are right there. So they have this thing called Co-Planner, play on AI basically. So it's helping you guys with an agent that's artificially intelligence enabled to be able to provide data insights, be able to help with writing formulas, help build reports. So the idea is it's kind of like your assistant or your junior. So as you're in Anaplan, you're taking a look at something, you can type into it just like you would into a chat GPT or some other AI function, and you'd basically be able to get recommendations for how you'd like to do something. What's a different way to look at a report? What's a better way to analyze a certain stock out? So yes, Anaplan is in dabbling in AI, and it is available, and it's called Anaplan Co-Planner, I believe.
And then Abdullah, I know that they've had some pretty native machine learning capabilities as well, kind of separate than the co-planner of like the agentic route. It sounds like there is a lot of different machine learning in relation to demand planning, supply, inventory levels, all that sort of stuff. That's kind of natively ingrained in the platform. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So for like I was mentioning, you have the optimizer, you have Plan IQ, you have all these different things that allow you to leverage machine learning. So more of the supervised side of things, but it helps you with predictive forecasting. It'll help you with things like inventory rebalancing, things like building smart containers or doing smart containerization. So yeah, there's a lot of cool functionality that is built right into the platform, and you wouldn't have to do anything extra to get set up.
Thanks, Abdullah. I'm going to read through one or two more of mine, and then I'll kind of watch the chat to see if more come through. But some other questions that I get a lot is, hey, how easy is Anaplan to maintain afterwards? And so, though we didn't get into the back end of it today, it's when you think about Anaplan, there's not a heavy, very heavy code presence in the back end. It's very similar to Excel formulas, and so if you're an Excel guru, like you can pick up Anaplan within a couple weeks, which is really great. And so there's no need to have a reliance on IT to say, hey, can you go make these scenarios and embed it in the platform? Like you can actually make those adjustments and do those scenarios in real time from the end user perspective. So it's really neat from that view. Kind of going off that as well as like we like to say, it's business owned. And so, post implementation, obviously we'd love to continue working with you all, but a lot of times we train you guys up enough so you can make, changes by yourself without needing to rely on consultants or IT or other teams internally as well.
Yeah, one of the other cool things about the app here is that just as easy it is to deploy, it's standardized, so it has some really strong documentation behind it. So you're able to leverage that documentation along with things like Co-Planner, for example, and that really lets you leverage Anaplan in its most capacity. So you do have support. You have obviously people like us who are always here to help you. You have Anaplan who's always there to help you, and then you also have all the documentation.
Yeah, thanks, Abdullah. One more question came in. What sets you apart from Blue Yonder, Logility, SAP, IBP, etc.? I can take a quick stab at this, and I'd love to get your perspective, Abdullah. What we see, there are kind of a couple common denominators. One being, like I mentioned, the end user business owned aspect of it, right? So the back end of Anaplan being Excel formulaic-esque. A lot of these tools are great. I'd say they're much more code heavy and IT centric than Anaplan. And so that's kind of one part of it. The second part of it is because Anaplan is this kind of holistic tool, those other tools that you mentioned are great. I'd say that they solve one specific problem within the organization. That data still has to flow to usually finance or other teams. And so there's still kind of a lack of integration when you're thinking about, collaborating with folks within the finance team or with the sales team or whatever that looks like. So when you think about Anaplan, it's one tool that many teams can use and collaborate and do scenarios on in real time. So that's the second point. The third point I'd say is just the time to value. And so, when you think about SAP BPC or SAP IBP implementation, I mean, those can take a long time, we've seen. And so going back to my previous point, we've seen Anaplan be deployed in a very short amount of time, so you can start seeing value pretty quick. But Abdullah, anything that I missed there?
No, all great points. I think the other thing we noticed quite a bit is how people like the modularity of it. So with the honeycomb that I think Matthew brought up, the key thing is that you don't actually have to go in and bite the whole thing together. So with an SAP or a Blue Yonder, like you said, you guys are coming in, you're getting what you're getting because it is a bit out of the box as a solution. So the benefit of Anaplan is that you can pick and choose. You can kind of really have your a la carte menu of saying, well, I'd like to start with demand planning and I just want to see how that works out. Now let me connect supply to it. Now let me collect inventory to it. Now, kind of keep building on top of each piece, and they all connect really well together because they are a bit plug and play in that sense. So I think that's really a huge the connected planning aspect of it is huge. And then the other part is like there's no batch processing. So a lot of these, like you mentioned, they're code heavy, but not just that, they're also like you're pressing a button, you're inputting things, you're processing. So there is that time delay, and the larger you get, the more you scale, because there is that middleman that we talked about that kind of holds you back. With Anaplan, since there is no kind of middleman in the middle, you do bypass that and get some more efficiency that way.
Great questions. Great questions. I'll just do one more here, then we can wrap up. But a lot of also, when we're thinking about big enterprises, there's a lot of data complexity, right? A lot of data coming from different systems. Anaplan is like we like to call data agnostic, meaning that it can connect to as many different ERPs, inventory systems, warehouse systems, like whatever data source that you need information from, it can connect to that and pull it into a single source of truth, which is Anaplan. And so though we didn't kind of talk about the integration aspect today, that is a key component to it of, just the way to pull in data from all these disparate data sets throughout the organization and pull it into a single source.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Anaplan has native connectors for, like you mentioned, a lot of these for both ingesting data and then also getting it out. So you also have things like Alteryx you can connect to, or Power BI or Tableau. So you can also push data out into these visualization tools very easily. And then the other really cool thing about it is that they're always increasing the number of tools that they have connectors to. They had recently took over or introduced CloudWorks, I believe. And then that allows you to start building these ETL flows that really help you within the tool itself, both manage them, schedule them, run them. And yeah, really does kind of help. They're also expanding with the data orchestrator to start giving you guys the ability to do some ETL or some other transformations. So there's a lot going on, and they really are keeping up. They're not resting on their laurels. They are keeping up with the newest and making sure that they are leading. And I think in those kind of innovative quadrants, you see the Gartners and stuff there. They're kind of always in there on the top right hand side.
Love it. Thanks, Abdullah. And as we kind of go into wrap up here and go into next steps, kind of two things that we think about from, there can be a lot of questions that we're willing to answer after this. So if there is more, happy to hop on a call just to understand more about, where you guys are at, what you're looking to do, and see if Anaplan can help there. A lot of times what we're willing to do is what we've seen work well is kind of prove it out in some sort of light POC. So if you guys have this kind of big spreadsheet that's being passed back and forth throughout the organization, like why don't we just sign an NDA, get that in place, and then we can actually demo that information back to you in a very quick amount of time to kind of show you what that would look like. And so, in the spirit of partnership, we're willing to kind of do that for next steps, and we can kind of put some value assessments behind it of, hey, it took you this long to do this before we increased your demand forecasting accuracy by X amount, which equated to X dollars. And so anyways, we can come up with some sort of value analysis along with that as well to kind of create a business case with you guys. So if that's of interest, we'd love to hear from you and see if there's any opportunities for us to kind of partner. So anything else, Abdullah or Ajay, before we wrap up? This has been great.
Nope, all good on my side. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me as well. All good.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining, and we'll talk with you soon.